You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. All right, let's start with what happened in Tuscaloosa. LSU went to Alabama, 20.5-point underdogs, and they were this close, y'all. They were this close and probably should have won the game. But for some self-inflicted wounds, some lack of execution in certain spots, they would have gone and pulled off the most improbable upset in the history of the program. Neither I nor you nor anyone gave them a legitimate chance of going to win that game. I didn't even think they'd be competitive, and they were not only competitive, they should have won the game. But they didn't. They made mistakes, and you can't do it on the road against Bama. And LSU falls 20-14. It felt a lot like the 2014 game, where LSU was not a very good football team. They outplayed Alabama for the bulk of that game. They fell apart right at the end, went to overtime, and lost. This felt very similar. After the game, here's what Ogeron said about the loss.
Compliment our team for how hard they played. I truly thought we were a better team tonight. We just came up a couple plays short. Wish we would have had a better plan on offense, especially in the second half. We had opportunities to score. We didn't. I got to take that responsibility. I just wish that we could have put our guys in better positions to win.
I believe there are sort of two coexisting realities that are evident after Saturday night's game. One of them is that you can be very complimentary of an undermanned football team that went on the road to the number 2 team in the country as a 28.5-point underdog with nobody giving them a shot and nearly pulled an epic upset. I mean, you all know the list. There's at least 8 players who at one point have been a starter on defense this season that were unavailable for this team in this game. Offensively, you're without your most dynamic playmaker in Kayshon Boutte. You all know the story. You don't need me to repeat to repeat it to you. But this was an opportunity where an undermanned LSU team went and played their behinds off. A team that, save for a couple of guys, really quit in that second half against Ole Miss. Same against Kentucky. They went out and played really hard on Saturday and were good enough to win, but just didn't make the plays to get it done. That's one box sitting right here. The other is that moral victories are not okay and should not be celebrated at a place like LSU. Ed Ogeron was running off the field, raising his arms and being fired up, and actually he was asked about it in the post-game press conference. Why he was running off the field that way.
We're not going to let this crowd intimidate us. It wasn't going to happen. We were coming in this house to win the game, and so was I. So I was having fun with it. Part of college football.
But he lost the game, and that's the issue for me. It does illustrate how far your program has fallen when you're celebrating losses to a good team because you played hard. For years, I pushed back against this whole 1979 LSU USC thing. I can remember doing radio shows with Condon in the middle 2000s when they'd have the anniversaries of that game, 25-year, 30-year anniversary of that game. And I can remember calling guys from that USC team to get them on the show, and they were like, wait, you want to talk about what? They didn't care. It was just another game to them. But that was LSU at that time. And I've never understood when you're a program that has won 4 national titles, 3 since 2003, played for another. Just 2 years ago, you had the greatest season in the history of college football, and that is the expectation, to be a championship caliber program. You should never be at a point where you're happy with a loss, where you celebrate effort in a loss. You lost. You should always play hard. But it goes to show you the dichotomy. It shows what's happened here with this program. I don't mean to beat a dead horse because the coach has been fired and they're going to move on. It only underscores why there is a great need to move on. Because I want to be very clear with something. I am okay with fan expectations being you should win the national championship every year. And here's why. We all know that's not realistic. You're not going to win the national championship every year. But when that's constantly your expectation and falling short of that has you disappointed, your floor becomes much higher. That's what you become when you're Alabama or Ohio State or Oklahoma or Clemson. Your floor is much higher. LSU was that for a long time. Les Miles' worst season was 8-5. An 8-win season was his worst year in Baton Rouge. That's a pretty high floor, and that's what LSU has crashed through now, is how low the floor is right now. It's setting your bar high is how you as a program avoid complacency. It's why LSU is moving on from where they are right now. Specifically with the game, listen, turnovers were just obviously, Ed Ogeron after the game talked about it. The turnovers, that was the story, that was the difference in this ball game.
Costly. That's a turnover before first half should have never happened. Costly, and then Tyrant had a big run. The guy did a good job of stripping, but we knew we had to win the turnover battle to win the game, and there were two costly turnovers, no doubt.
I thought to start the game, LSU came up with a big stop. It was the 49-yard missed field goal that clanked off the crossbar. LSU got the ball. They got a 4th and 4, and they burn a timeout. And we're all sitting here going, here we go again. They're wasting it. And the strange irony of that is LSU was only able to catch Alabama off guard after the timeout because LSU's clock mismanagement and calling a timeout before a punt was not odd. Because it's something we've seen them do all year, calling fourth down timeouts. I mean, the clock mismanagement, misuse of timeouts, all of Twitter was talking about it in that moment. But the call was a great one. Avery Atkins to Jack Mashburn, and then, of course, Brian Thomas got his first touchdown catch of his career. And then there was no more scoring until Bama finally got on the board inside of 3 minutes to go in the first half. And even then, you still felt like, all right, go run out this clock, get to the locker room because you get the ball to start the second half. And what happened is exactly what LSU couldn't have happened. That was the deflected interception, and Alabama goes in the end zone again with just 48 seconds to go before half, and a brilliantly played half where it looked like LSU was going to have the lead or at least be in a tie ball game at half. Now you're down 14-0, and then to start the second half is exactly what Ed Ogeron talked about there. The Ty Davis-Price fumble. Alabama gets the ball. Jamison Williams, the 58-yard pass from Bryce Young, and it's 20-7. And just like that, I think we were all thinking, well, it was fun for a half. But I'll be damned, the LSU defense manned up, and they did not allow another point from Alabama the rest of the game, and that was so mightily impressive. We will talk about the quarterback situation, and Ed Ogeron was asked about Garrett Nussmeier and said, look, he's not going to play him and burn the red shirt unless he's going to play him for an extended period of time, and that's a decision he's going to have to make moving forward. But it's very clear that Max Johnson has had some issues. It's very clear that he's unsteady in the pocket, that he was inaccurate. I'm not putting this loss on Max Johnson, but I also didn't expect Max Johnson to be an elite-level quarterback this year. Many did. That's why you have a lot of dismay. He's a true sophomore. I mean, I'll remind you, the last 3 true sophomores to start a quarterback for LSU were Brandon Harris in 2015, Anthony Jennings in 2014, and Jordan Jefferson in 2009. None of those were great offensive seasons because it's hard to play quarterback. I mean, Joe Burrow, as a fourth-year college player, his first year starting at LSU in 2018, didn't throw a touchdown pass the entire month of October. But he got better. And maybe Max will as well. Or maybe you give the ball to Garrett and let him run around and sling it a little bit because there were plays to be had. The decision to go for the touchdown on 4th and goal from the 7, I would have preferred kick the field goal, 6 minutes to play in the ball game. You get a stop. If you get within 60 yards, you're in Cade York's range. And as it turns out, LSU had 2 more possessions, both of them in Cade York's range. Hindsight's 20/20 with that play. A better throw to Trey Palmer, and you have the lead. And then, of course, the following possession, you had a 4th down play, and Jack Best was open, and you overthrew him. I mean, I'm not putting the loss at Max's feet, but he certainly didn't play his best game on Saturday. And really, to beat Alabama, you need your quarterback to play at that level. And LSU just didn't get that on Saturday. It's unfortunate because they were that close. And it would have been a win that would have wrecked Alabama's season. It certainly would have been a jolt of energy for this team moving forward, and it's always nice to beat Alabama. But LSU came up just a little bit short on Saturday. So the big question becomes now, with 3 games to play, can you replicate that energy, that emotion, that effort? Can you replicate that 3 more times? If you can, you'll be a bowl team. If you can't, you'll probably go 5-7, and you'll be done. And the most important thing people look forward to is who the new coach is going to be, and we'll find that out after the Texas A&M game. So Ed Ogeron and the staff, see if they can get this team up 3 more times, starting this Saturday at home against Arkansas for a night kickoff in Tiger Stadium. But they'll have to pick themselves up off the mat after a pretty deflating loss at the hands of Bama, one that LSU had in its grasp and just couldn't squeeze. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.